Democracy is often measured by elections, but it is also measured by something quieter and perhaps even more important: the freedom to question those in power. This week, as India's Prime Minister Modi arrived in Australia for high-level talks, another gathering unfolded outside the spotlight. Human rights groups, members of the Indian diaspora and civil society organisations took to the streets, people calling for the Australian government not to let trade, security and strategic partnerships overshadow concerns about human rights, press freedoms and the treatment of minorities in India. While some gathered inside to celebrate the growing relationship between Australia and India, others gathered outside to remind politicians and leaders that strong friendships between nations should never require silence on fundamental rights. The contrast could not have been more striking. While some were celebrating one of the world's fastest growing relationships, outside were banners, chants, voices calling for accountability. Both groups reflect different parts of Australia's vibrant Indian community. Both believe they were acting out of love for their country, their values and their future. Yet they arrive at very different conclusions about what this visit should represent. For many protesters, this was never simply about one political leader. It was about principles they believe transcend politics. They argue that concerns over the treatment of religious minorities, journalists, activists and dissenting voices deserve to remain part of Australia's conversations with India, regardless of how important the economic and strategic partnership has become. Their message was not that Australia should weaken its relationship with India, but that democratic partnerships are strongest when difficult conversations are not avoided. These competing emotions reveal something much larger than a single state visit. Democracies are often defined not by the absence of disagreement, but by their willingness to allow disagreement to be heard. Peaceful protest is not a sign of weakness. It is evidence that people still believe their voices matter. The challenge for governments is balancing national interests with national values. Economic partnerships create prosperity. Strategic alliances create security. But human rights remind societies why those partnerships exist in the first place. The real test is whether countries can strengthen relationships while still speaking honestly about issues where they differ. Long after the motorcades have departed and the speeches have ended, the images that may endure are not only those of cheering crowds, but also of citizens standing peacefully with placards in hand, reminding leaders that democracy is measured not only by the deals it signs, but by the principle it chooses to defend. Prime Minister Modi's visit reflects the growing importance of the Australia-India relationship. Trade, education, defence cooperation, technology and regional security have all become central pillars of the partnership, with both governments describing the relationship as one of increasing strategic significance. The demonstrations also highlight the diversity of Australia's Indian diaspora. It is not a single political voice, but a community made up of many faiths, languages, cultures and political perspectives. While some Australians of Indian heritage welcomed the visit enthusiastically, others believed it was equally important to use the occasion to draw attention to issues they believe deserve greater international scrutiny.
This balance is increasingly familiar in modern diplomacy. Nations often pursue closer economic and security cooperation while continuing to disagree on questions of human rights. Managing those differences requires both political courage and mutual respect. Protesters argue that raising human rights concerns strengthens democratic relationships rather than weakens them. Supporters argue that engagement creates greater opportunities for dialogue over time. The demonstrations also reflect something broader about Australia itself. The right to protest peacefully, to challenge political leaders and to express opposing views is a fundamental part of democratic life. It allows communities to celebrate, to disagree, and to demand accountability at the same time. While opinions differ sharply on the issues being raised, the ability to express those views openly remains one of the defining strengths of an open society. Ultimately, this story is about more than one visit or one leader. It is about the continuing tension between diplomacy and principle and whether nations can pursue closer partnerships without losing sight of the values they say they share.
As Australia and India continue expanding their partnership, discussions about trade, security and regional stability are likely to dominate official agendas. Yet, many human rights advocates hope these conversations will also include difficult questions about civil liberties, minority rights and democratic freedoms. The challenge for both governments will be demonstrating that closer strategic ties do not come at the expense of the values they publicly champion. Strong relationships are not built by avoiding uncomfortable conversations. They are strengthened by having them openly, respectfully, and with a shared commitment to democratic principles.